All right, welcome to IGNIS podcast, and today we have Isaac Vandentorn. Hopefully, I said that right. I've been friends with him, I think, a year now.
Uh, year, 2 years?
Yeah,
It's since
a
you
year and a
moved
half.
down here, you were a year and a half, yeah.
Last June, I
Yeah,
think.
last June, yeah.
And yeah, I met him at a Wednesday group meeting at Marge's, and yeah, just one of the things we've been talking about is how women shouldn't be in the military, but more specifically in the Bible, God called men to fight for their country and their families. And part
Mhm.
of that we were talking about in the past is that, like, if a man dies, the wife has to stay at home and bring up the children, and just, and mathematically speaking,
Yeah.
somebody has to go fight
Yeah,
and
and
someone
somebody
has
has
to
to
stay home and take care
take
of
care
the
of the
kids.
family.
And so many women today are trying to fulfill men's responsibilities and stuff
And
too.
leaving the kids at home with nothing,
Yeah,
and it's just a lack of motherhood and a lack of fatherhood. This country goes into a lot of, talking about lack of fatherhood, and it's like, well, there's just as much of a lack of motherhood because they're taking the mothers away just as much.
yeah.
Like,
And we have a lady at this group, I'm not going to say her name, but sometimes you can hear a little bit of that feminism and the wokeness and the very far left. But
yeah.
Isaac's going to share his testimony about his army
Yeah.
experience. And so, how old were you when you enlisted?
So I was 18. I joined 5 days after I got out of high school. I shipped off to basic training 5 days after I went out to high school. Brent was due the day I got out of high school, so 5 days after, I was like, "Well, I'm out of here. Peace." Um, and I literally, I shipped out to basic training, went to Fort Benning, um, and then from Fort Benning went to Fort Sam Houston. And from Fort Sam Houston went to Fort Leonard Wood. I was a combat medic in route clearance platoon. I got to my unit and they told me, my recruiter told me that I was going to be ruck marching through Afghanistan. And I thought that was going to be cool. I was going to have a backpack on, going through the mountains with as a medic, whatever, had my rifle and everyone else was there killing stuff. And they're like, well, we poke bombs with sticks. And I was like, what do you mean you poke bombs with sticks? Like, he's like, well, we do route clearance. We go 4 to 5 miles down an hour down the road, and we look for roadside bombs. And if we find one, we poke it. And if it blows up, it's a bomb. And if it doesn't blow up, it's not a bomb. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. like,
So that's in Iraq with
that was
the
in Iraq
IEDs, I
and
think.
IEDs and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, the roadside bombs. Um, so that was what I did. Within a year, I was in Iraq, and we deployed as a battalion-sized unit. But then our company got split off from our battalion because there wasn't Obama was downsizing things, or we were starting to downsize things, and then we were pulling out a little bit. And then uh, our platoon got separated from our company, so we were literally just like one platoon out there on our own, taking over a company size, area, whatever. And so we were just doing missions like crazy. We would do work with special forces all the time. They would use us as bait to go and try and find bomb makers, whatever. Or just like we had heavily armored vehicles. I mean, it looked like a big shiny target, and there was, you know, large rewards for the Buffalo and the RGs and certain vehicles that we were driving that terrorists would pay if they blew them up. And so they would use us as bait to go into certain areas and then wait for people to, try and kill us, whatever. And then they would go out and kill them instead. Like we worked hand in hand with them as bait.
So you were kind of like a diversion for the enemy, kind
Yeah,
of.
a little bit. I mean, it's like it was there was literally baiting a trap. Like
Mhm.
like we were literally the bait in a trap, and they would like at one point in time we did a test fire and we did it in the wrong direction. We weren't supposed to. And we almost shot a Navy SEAL. Um,
Yeah, like casualties on friendlies is a big deal in the military
it is.
too.
Well, that was a and that goes into the whole women in the military thing.
Yeah.
That was my second deployment. So what had happened there when I had gotten back my first deployment, they were short on medics still in the army as a whole, whatever, mainly in that unit, just because no one wanted to. no one was requesting to go to Fort Leonard Wood to work in route clearance platoon because it was not something that you wanted to do. You sat in a vehicle and waited to die for, 18 to 24 hours a day, and then got out and did it, for a week at a time, got a 3-day break, turn around, whatever, and then did it again. Like it was not something people volunteered to do. So there was a massive shortage of medics within that unit. And So I got put in charge of the unit's medical um, um, medics, whatever, as an E4. I was supposed to be an E7, as it was an E7's job. And My first sergeant, he decided he did the unit requisitions for like getting new people into the unit, whatever, and he ended up fighting for and getting this super old, she was super old, she was 41, 36 now.
Yeah, you
Uh,
can't say that anymore. Okay. Well, you can give her a different name,
yeah, I
probably.
could give her, I mean, well, I talk pretty more, like, it's all
What's
right.
that? I don't care. It's up to you.
Like, I don't care.
Okay.
She is off social media and I am blocked on everything
Okay.
for a very good reason.
Okay.
She would she is yeah, so Pridmore, she was put into our unit as she was 41 or 42 years old at the time, and I was furious because she was overweight, she was fat, and she was not like, she could do really good paperwork. And she was good at that aspect of the job, but she was the last person you wanted to be trying to save you if you were in a burning vehicle, and you needed, like, it was just not capable. She had to do 16 push-ups for a PT test, and she had to run like a 23-minute 2 mile, and had to do like 25 sit-ups.
Okay.
And
This is vital to hear about happening because, like, I think of assassination of Trump, and they were going over exactly what you're
yeah,
talking about now after that happened.
they're this it's a joke.
Yeah.
Like I had to do, like, even then, I was upset with physical fitness standards they were putting me under. Like, just to barely pass, like I had to do, I think, 45 push-ups, and then like I had to do 70 sit-ups, and then I don't remember what the run is because I always max the run out. I think it was like 15:30 for a run. Um,
But like carrying a stretcher with a guy on it is hard work.
well,
Or having to do buddy carries and carrying somebody, that takes some muscle and
I
endurance.
I got in a screaming match with my first sergeant. Like, we were literally screaming at each other. Like, I was in his office screaming at him. Like, and it ended with me telling her, or telling him that, like, if she kills someone, like, this is on you. Like, you don't really, like, I had to carry Owen out of the vehicle. A guy that we had to casualty. He had gotten hit by an EFP. It is about 10 or 12 feet to the back of a buffalo, like to the entrance. You have to, like, get up onto it on a ladder.
Hmm.
Like, and we had to carry Owen down from that. Like, and like, as like we're carrying him down, like, literally the tourniquet slipped off his leg, and Malinky's got his feet, and the femoral artery is just like spraying him in the face, like, just like,
Jeez.
and like he's like using one hand to block it with a glove, like, as we're trying to two-man this. At that point, he was probably like 300 pounds because of all the gear and stuff that he had on him, like,
Armor, yeah, and stuff.
out of this vehicle. It's not something you can do if you're a slouch. You have to be physically qualified for this job. It's not like, I mean, you can do a nurse's job, you can do even an EMT's job. But even then, like, there's restrictions on that because the amount of physical labor, physical effort you're going to have to put forward is different. And I was just screaming at him about it, like, if she's gonna kill someone, and I'm not gonna be responsible for this. I'm not gonna be like, this is on you. Like, and for those who weren't in the military, you don't scream at a first sergeant, especially as an E4. Like,
Yeah.
that's not something that you should be doing. Like,
Hmm.
that's very, very frowned
Yeah.
upon. Usually you get, you know,
You could have said it nicely, or you could have been angry and they still wouldn't
they
listen.
wouldn't have listened. Like,
I think the same thing happened at NASA when the rocket blew up and they
yeah,
had the seal around it. And there was an engineer that was like yelling at his lungs, you're going to, like, basically,
you're
it's
going to
not
kill
ready,
it.
you're going to
No,
launch, but
yeah,
politics.
they push it forward.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't, that
No,
was
you're
just
good.
a
You're
small
good. He was
interjection.
he was
Keep going.
pushing big into politics at that point in time, because he was getting a ton of black people to go to his unit. Ton of black people to go to his unit. He's a black guy. He's from Jamaica. He's a cool dude. I got along with him on a personal level. Great, like like personally and on a person-to-person basis. He was a very personal first sergeant. That's why I was able to get away with screaming at him because most first sergeants wouldn't let you. I would have been smoked and then Article 15 and discharged.
Yeah, yeah.
The fact that I was able to scream at him says something about his personality that I was able to, or in our relationship together.
This is your first sergeant.
This is my first sergeant.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I think Roger, when you talked about this a while ago, was it one of your commanders ended up committing suicide
So that
too?
was Captain Solon. He was the new commander that we had gotten. So
Okay.
he ended up killing himself afterwards because of the whole thing. But I
Did you
so
tell him about your
he was the one
frustration?
that pulled me out of the office and stopped me from yelling at him
Okay.
because he was like wondering why in the heck is this E4 screaming at this first
Well,
sergeant?
somebody's going to die.
Yeah, like
I think that's a little warranted. You can't.
he didn't discipline me for it.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
didn't like it was he completely understood why I was upset. He was a sapper ranger. He was a sapper instructor. He was sapper ranger qualified. He had the tabs, whatever. He worked with a lot of guys. He trained a lot of guys that went through special forces. He trained pretty much all of them that went through special forces because they typically go through sapper school as well as ranger school. Sapper school, for those who don't know, is it's the ranger school of the engineers. I'm not like the engineers that you're thinking of as like designing things. The engineers is of the guys that blow stuff up.
Yeah.
The sappers is specifically they focus on demo. So it's the guys doing the door breaches or blowing up all the bridges or the guys who collect all of the spent ammo and just make a giant pile of it and
And what's
blow
the
it up, whatever.
buffalo? The buffalo
Sorry, the
people?
Buffalo is a
This is the first time I've heard.
Bone Crusher in Transformers.
Okay.
He is the Buffalo. That's the easiest way I can. It is a giant vehicle with
Is it
it's
like
like
an MRAP?
ish. The MRAP was based a little bit off of the Buffalo, but the
Okay.
MRAP was ultimately a horrible design. Buffaloes and the RGs were what we used
Okay.
mostly. They were more stable.
Okay.
Where the MRAP was not. It was too short. It was just not well designed.
Okay.
But Buffalo had a very distinct V hull on the bottom of it, where it was just a distinct V like that. It was super tall, whatever, and it had a giant claw on it, like an arm. And so, like when I said we poke bounce with sticks, like in the Buffalo,
Oh,
literally had
yeah.
an arm on it that would go out and had a claw on it, and you literally sit there with a joystick and you poke the crap and dig at it, and
Okay.
so you were literally poking things with a giant stick at a vehicle.
So
Like
you're kind of like EOD unofficially.
EOD, we worked with a lot of times. We worked with EOD on a daily basis. They were just EOD kind of came about more so, became bigger after um, IED started becoming a bigger thing. So EOD was like engineers was typically who you called to do that,
Yeah.
but then they started becoming more specialized
Yeah, yeah.
within that aspect of
That's
it.
good.
Which is
Yeah.
it's good and bad. They reduced the training for the engineers and then came up with another S to MOS to or military occupational specialty to do more in-depth training. Instead of having a lot more highly trained individuals, you had a lot less highly trained individuals and a lot more highly untrained individuals. And then but it became a liability thing of your who's allowed to blow up a bomb bigger than 155 round and it's like, well, instead of having the engineers who typically would do it and did do it throughout World War II, Vietnam, and um the early Iraq wars and started now EOD was the only one that could blow it up, whatever. And then even then we'd go out watch EOD. We certain branches of the military's EOD were better than the others. I hated the Air Force EOD. Nothing against the Air Force. They were completely incompetent. They did have a hot chick in their unit.
It's a bad thing.
Which is a bad thing. It was definitely distracted. It
Yeah.
was like
Yeah, we talked about this too, and you have an experience about how a woman moralized all your troops. I don't think we're gonna go over that
that
because that's
was
just a whole nother
that was
rabbit hole.
Pridmore again. That was
That was her too?
yeah.
Okay.
She was
All right, let's not go on that rabbit trail, but
uh,
yeah, continue on from
she was the reason why I couldn't talk to my team leader because she was having sexual relations with my team leader.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there was no like the guy who was in charge of me the first deployment, whatever, like Sergeant Tweak, um, which that's a whole other rabbit hole. We called him Sergeant Tweak for reasons, whatever. But he was screwing her, and so I was not able to go and talk to him and actually like tell him like, hey, like this is like going on, or like But then so anyways, I ended up trying to commit suicide before that deployment just because of the unit was in shambles. It was very DEI does not create a very effective fighting force. I will just say that. And I was going to choose the time that I was going to die. I was not playing this game. If I was going to die, I was going to die in my own time. And I tried to choose and I failed. And God, put His hand in there and said, "No, this is not your time." And that's a whole other story. Um, but anyways, they
Suicide is a pretty common thing in the military today, too.
yeah. I mean, it's very common. I've had
There's
well
another
over.
guy you told me about, too, that was suicidal, but we won't go down that rabbit trail either.
Just stick to the main story, the main
Yeah,
plot line.
there's too many stories up here. We're sticking to one right now.
You're
Okay, go ahead.
trying to stick to the one. What ended up happening is they deployed, and on September 28th, when they were 28th, 2011, I believe it was, when they were en route, and Pridmore was in the vehicle, and their vehicle got hit. Lieutenant Drake, or Lieutenant Echek, PV2 Drake, Private Drake, Menard, and Lieutenant Echek and Drake were killed instantly. The front of the vehicle was completely demolished. They were killed instantaneously. Katowski was ejected about 100 feet away from the vehicle. He was the gunner, and Menard was very messed up. He's paralyzed, shitting in a colostomy bag. Sorry if I in the military for a while, and my tongue truly is set on fire by Satan, by hell itself, whatever. I try to calm or curb my language, but it comes out. But so he's dead. Well, two of them are dead. Katowski's laying there, just bleeding out.
Have you been able to talk to any of these men's families about what happened to
I
them or
don't know if I
anything?
could. I talked to Katowski's mom, and like I wanted. I just didn't. I don't know if I had the. I didn't have
The heart to
the
do
heart to
it?
tell it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they could see this someday, and at least they could get a little closure and maybe a little bit of fury from God about how their sons
Life was
from
wasted.
from DEI
His
quotas and
so
stuff.
so Pridmore didn't get out of the vehicle to go up there to save Katowski. She didn't get out of the vehicle to go check on Menard. She didn't do anything. She froze, sat in the vehicle. Like I told her she was like I told her she was going to. And and literally the QRF, which is the quick reactionary force, which is not quick. It usually takes upwards an hour. I think they showed up like 3 hours later. They were the ones that went out there, and they got to Menard and they got to Katowski, and Katowski died out there in the Afghanistan sun because of someone's diversity hire. And it wasn't just that she was not qualified, that degree. Like we had gone through BCT 3, which is a brigade combat trauma training team, and in it you do goat labs where they take you, they put you in a scenario where they're shooting you with a paintball gun and they give you casualties, whatever, and so you're gonna have to lift this casualty out of the vehicle, whatever, and it's just dead weight, whatever, and then you go into this room and it's dark and they're playing the Haji music, whatever, and the explosions going off in the background, and instructors sitting there screaming at you, whatever, and they've taken this goat and they've cut one of its legs off, stabbed it in the chest, severed its femoral artery, given it, abdominal occlusion and, a sucking chest wound. And it's just, this goat is like not there. It's really messed up and you have to save this goat. Like that is your job. Like you're going there, they're giving you, like, you've just gone through this training, you're in a very crappy scenario, like you have to save this goat. She couldn't do it. She ended up, she was like crying and then was
Okay.
not like able to, like, not qualified for that job. And like was again not a very nice person. But you know, these jobs, it's serious. It's not a game. It's not
It's not
like it's not
politics.
politics.
In some respect, anyway.
It's life or death. So I mean, she was not qualified for the job that she was doing, but she was kept in there anyways. And so after everything had happened, they got back to base. My commander found out what had happened, whatever. He walked into my first sergeant's office and he knocked his two front teeth out. Socked him right in the face, like just knocked his teeth out. My first sergeant was demoted from an E8 to an E7.
And you said that's like an act of
That's an
Congress.
act of Congress.
Like
That's
it's hard to do.
it's not
It's
an
kind of like
easy.
civil servants in
Yeah,
today's. Yeah.
you can't just get demoted. Like my
Hmm.
tutor used to brag about it all the time. Like he's like, I'm an E7. Like I have to do something so stupid, and it takes an act of Congress to get me demoted after E7 and above. And it's like for a first sergeant to get demoted, you have to do something really stupid. There's no news story about it. There's no anything about that. That was completely squashed.
Oh, they wouldn't let that
No, they
out.
wouldn't let that out. Are you
Okay.
serious? Not in the middle of Obama's administration.
Yeah.
That would not fit the political.
So see wickedness suppressing the truth throughout
Yeah.
all time, and this is one of those examples because they wanted so hard to have a what's from Wonder Woman kind
Yeah,
of.
one 41-year-old Wonder Woman, 42-year-old Wonder Woman that was not qualified to do her job and not physically or mentally qualified to do her job, but because of DEI, they
Yeah,
pushed it through. And
equality and all that stuff. But I
there's
mean, there's men who can freeze up too, but this specific instance, they were,
they,
yeah,
like she was not qualified
yeah,
physically and she was not qualified emotionally or mentally. I mean that's what I'm saying. The BCT3 labs. That's why they put you through it.
yeah, yeah.
That's why they people are
So,
like oh you're torturing this poor goat. Well, if you're not able to, if you're freezing up on a goat, if you're freezing up on a goat, what if it's, one of your best friends that's sitting there bleeding to
yeah.
death? If you're freezing up on a goat, you got no business working on your friend.
Hmm.
I mean, that's just, that's the truth of the matter. If you're
Yeah, I
freezing
don't
up on
know
a
if I could do
goat,
that. So, yeah.
it's not a, it's like, it wasn't like this fun thing that we're like, oh, this like light environment we're working on a goat. No, they like try to make it as stressful and like messed up as
Because it's
possible
going to be like
because
that in
it's going to be
combat.
like that.
Yeah.
Like I've been there and like it's not fun. It's not like it's not like this, this cool thing you get to do where it's like you get done afterwards and you're all backslapping each other like this was awesome. And no, it's miserable. Like you get done with it and you're I got my combat medic badge and I got like an award and I'm like, what? Like I used to be so like enthused, like I wanted awards and stuff like that, and I got my combat medic badge and I was like, this thing is freaking worthless. Like I would rather have never gone through this. This never happened. Awards are not worth the blood they're written in.
Yeah. Well,
Like
they're applauding wicked things or evil things that,
it turned out, I mean, I got it because I saved Owen's life,
yeah, yours is
but it's
commendable.
it's
But if
still
you're doing
not.
something like really honorable, it's not going to really get that notice because they're too
No.
focused on DEI stuff.
DEI, and
And
then yeah, I was supposed to get a bronze star for that one too, and then bronze star with valor actually. My commander said that I didn't deserve it, and then he put himself in for a bronze star for like nothing. Like he never did anything at all. Like he wasn't. He
oh,
literally forgot to mention or like the only casualty his unit took in his speech at the end of it, whatever. Didn't include any of the bombs that we found or anything like that. Like when we like left it out, whatever. I confronted him in front of the sergeant major and the commander. And I was like, dude, you left out like literally the only casualty that you had. And he's like, oh yeah, and it's like, and he like threw it on at the end or whatever, and I'm like, you're freaking tool bag. And the sergeant major was like, well, why do you think you deserve it? I was like, I'm not going to toot my own horn. Like, I'm not going to be the one that's going to put myself forward for trying to get something that, if people think I deserve an award, they're going to put me in for it. They're
yeah,
going to
yeah,
have my
that's
back.
true.
I'm not going to be the one that's going to sit there and be like, well, I deserve this because I'm self-righteous and,
Yeah, yeah.
that's not,
That reminds me of the Obama administration, like patting
yeah,
yourself on the back the
yeah.
whole time.
And that's
And
what yeah,
yeah, and like in the scriptures, it says, "Let another man praise you, and not your own lips," and
yeah.
stuff. So, I mean, I applaud you for your service, and I don't have any bronze stars or
You
whatever,
don't get them
so
though.
but I'm sure God is very happy with what you've done, and
Yeah.
it won't. I mean, sometimes it takes a few years. Like I've heard of people getting awards 10 years later.
I don't
Like,
want it. I got enough
yeah,
I got enough cool guy points. The only way I would even want it would be for my kids at this point, but I don't want nothing to do with it.
yeah.
I'd rather
Well, you need to go on the
uh,
Talons Out thing.
yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot of Vietnam vets that like got healing, and I would say from all this stuff that they went through, you might be fighting this. I mean, you're definitely still fighting it. Like when we go to group today, you want to share
Uh,
about your best
Brandon,
friend.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a whole nother mess. Anyways, Captain Soul, my commander, he ended up killing himself, and then um, nothing came of anything. That was the end of that. That was evil triumphing over good, which is kind of like sad. And this is, I guess, one of the reasons why I like telling the stories because this is a way of good triumphing over evil, being able to actually tell it,
Yeah.
which is
That's how you kind of beat the enemy
yeah,
sometimes is by surviving and being
yeah,
able to tell the story.
yeah. So yeah, um, I don't know if you want to go.
With the assassination attempt on Trump, they were talking about like one of the, I think the special or the CIA, whatever the director was at that
The
time,
director
was
of
she was focused on, oh,
Secret
there's
Service.
only 20% women. I want to
Yeah.
make 50% women. I'm like,
No, it doesn't work like that.
yeah,
Like if she's if you're a woman that's truly qualified, she can be truly qualified in today's world. But men, there's a reason men are in charge of stuff like that.
yeah,
The tenacity, the just sheer alphaness,
yeah, yeah. And masculinity. Yeah,
masculinity. That's why they're there. And that's why God made us this way. God made us this way for a reason. God made us protectors. God made us fighters. God made us warriors.
yeah,
And you take that away from us, and that's why you have such a huge problem in a lot of American culture today. And President Trump's assassination attempt, the chick couldn't even holster a weapon.
yeah,
Like if you watch Reagan's assassination attempt, I mean, it is not the same. It is not at all the same. That's just because what was valued within society at that point in time. You had Bob Munden out there at that point in time. Reagan was on, all the westerns and stuff like that. It was a different world. It was just,
well, the best is, I believe the best is yet to come,
yeah,
especially these next few years.
yeah, I hope so. I hope so. That's what Trump's trying to do right now. He's putting in have you seen his cabinet picks?
Yeah, I've been watching it a little bit. So is Trey. So I want to
Yeah,
get you and Trey on here
yeah,
sometime too. He has to drive an hour down here, so I don't want to
yeah, it's a
obligate him
lot.
too much. But I guess if you want, we can close out
Yeah,
on this unless there's something else you wanted
yeah,
to
right.
share.
Not not without a long
Yeah, we have about
segue.
15 minutes, so
I mean, I can go over it if you want to.
yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Um, it's so today's my birthday. Happy birthday to me.
Yeah, happy birthday. I got him a mug, but it won't be here till Friday.
I'm 36. Um, and every year I call it my B day. And that is because my buddy Brandon, we always called him B. So I grew up in a small town, population under 1,000. And Brandon, me, and Joey were the only three boys my age, that grew up on the south side of the gravel sea, I call it. There was a paved road in the middle of it, and so you didn't cross that on your four wheeler because that was where the cops hung out at.
Okay.
Yes, that's how small a town I grew up in. So we grew up there, and we did raised hell together. We were a bunch of young boys doing all kinds of dumb stuff. And when we got out of high school, I joined the military. I joined before Brandon, and then Brandon joined after me. He was an engineer. He joined to be an engineer actually, and I was a medic. He was an engineer. And then uh, so. he deployed after me, so I deployed before him. He deployed after me, and then he got his unit took over my unit's area. Um, like we were leaving one area. It was out by Taji. David Hill will talk about that. It was a very bad area after we left. And then like so his unit took over that area, but then he returned home before me, so he had a shorter deployment than me by like 3 months. Because they passed some new law or regulation ever saying you couldn't deploy for more than a year, and we were just the unlucky ones that got stuck as like the but so anyways, his unit took over my unit's area, whatever, and like his unit got messed up. The TC next to him, his TC, he was the driver of the vehicle, the um technical commander, the commander of the vehicle, the person that sits in the passenger seat, was he had his head blown off, and Brandon had to sit there for 6 hours while QRF was waiting, to recover them. We got back, and I remember we were drinking and having this like just bawling over each other, and he was bawling about. I knew he had killed like an 8-year-old kid. I knew exactly what kid it was. They were always throwing rocks at us in that area. We had almost killed him many times because like it's you don't know if it's going to be a grenade or not. My buddy Paris was killed because of that. It was a grenade actually that time. So it's like you're yeah, rock throwing, it's like a thing, whatever. But like, I remember bawling with him, like him bawling on my shoulders, like we're having this like true heart, like man moment, whatever. Um, but then uh, we had kind of gone our separate ways, and I had decided I was going to get my life back in order. I wasn't doing any dumb things anymore. I wasn't going out partying. I wasn't doing, I'd given my life to Christ, and I decided that I was going to I was going to turn my life around, and that meant, a lot of times, in a lot of instances, for a lot of people, it's cutting off and losing a lot of the friends that you had, and that's really hard because like they're still in that spot and they're still suffering. And so he had messaged me, um, on my birthday. He was looking for Percocets.
Oh yeah, you told me about that. Yeah.
I had gotten Percocets for I'd had my wisdom teeth, or not my wisdom teeth, my tonsils taken out, and then I had a septum surgery, and so they'd given me Percocets for that. Like, not that I was um, abusing Percocets, whatever, at that time, but it was like he knew that I had them because he had talked to me, whatever, at a point in time. He knew that I had Percocets for my surgery, whatever, and he was trying to hit me up for drugs. That I didn't have, and I told him like, listen, I ignored him because I told him like the time before that, 'cause not the first time he hit me up for them. Do you think he didn't know I didn't have him? But I had ignored him completely that time, because I told him before, like, listen, dude, I've turned my life around. That's not the life I'm going towards anymore now. I'm not like I've turned my life to God. This is, And so on my birthday, he called me, and I just, hit the button and sent him straight to voicemail. I didn't answer it. Like I wasn't dealing with it. It was my birthday. I was gonna live my life, and I was gonna be happy, and I didn't care about what suffering he could have gone through. And so what ended up happening is I was sitting in Michigan State, going to college. It was at night. It was night classes at that point. And my sister texted me, and he ended up shooting himself in the face with a shotgun. Um, and I lost it. I started flipping tables. Um, I started screaming, flipping tables in the middle of class, and we're on this online class, whatever. So half the class is virtual, half the class is in person, whatever. And so the teacher's like wondering what the heck's going on, because I'm flipping tables, screaming at people. I just stopped and was like, "Sorry, my buddy just shot himself in the face, my birthday." And it's hard 'cause it's like I've learned. It's like I cut him off because I was in this place in my life where I had to be away from that so I could live my life in righteousness, so I could be in God, so I didn't feel tempted to go back to the life of stupidity that I was living, life of sin that I was living. But at the same time, I ignored a fellow veteran, a fellow friend that was suffering in complete agony and misery and needed me to answer that phone. And who knows what would have happened if he did. But there's scripture on it. I'd like to listen about it. So when he shot himself, it was in November 20th, so there was snow on the ground, and it was outside, and he shot himself, and they couldn't clean all of the stuff off the ground. And so the dogs ended up eating his um what was left of his flesh out of the snow. and I need to look up their scripture on that about it wasn't Saul, um, but there was another king in Israel where the dogs ate his flesh.
Jezebel.
Yeah, was it Jezebel?
Yeah, it
Yes.
said like there would be nothing left but her feet and hands, I
Yes.
think.
Yeah. So it was the yeah, it was rough. And so every year my birthday now is like instead of having this like happy birthday celebration, it just like it turns into this like not happy birthday. Like,
Yeah.
and so I always call it my B day because his name was Brandon. We called him B whatever. And so I say it's my B day because it's in remembrance of him as well. You know, one of the things I wanted to do at group today is just to, and if you wanted to comment on um you know in remembrance of someone you lost through suicide, so that their name doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're going to comment on the video, comment on the fact of someone who you lost through suicide, who you know you remember. And it doesn't have to be on your birthday. I hope no one ever has to experience that misery, but someone who you lost through, you know, suicide in just any way that meant something to you, and that so that way they can live on in your memories at least.
Yeah, I
Even
have a couple guys, or at least one that committed suicide, but I don't think he had a father, and he actually had molested one of his sisters and stuff, and
yeah,
that's that's it's sad,
it's
but
sad.
and you were kind of talking about like what were we talking about? Like
Like
Apostle Paul, like pushing people out of the church because of their
the
decisions and giving,
destruction of their flesh, like
yeah,
my
it's a real
it's a
thing.
real thing. You need to like my cousin Steven's dying right now, and I pushed him out from of my life, like and prayed for the destruction of his flesh, that his salvation might be achieved
Yeah,
in the end. And almost died twice in the past month from alcoholism, and it's hard. It's like and I don't.
it's hard to know when to
I,
help and when to, like we were talking about that while we were weightlifting and like
yeah.
your phone call, you just,
Do I answer?
yeah,
Do you know? It's like, do I answer that? Do I answer him and try and help him, even though it might lead me down the wrong path? Or do I ignore him and continue to try and push the destruction for the destruction of his flesh? Like what is the when is the right time? Like
yeah.
and it's like it's so hard. It's like it's
All right. Well,
yeah.
I guess we should try to end on something a
You
little
know,
more
a little more
positive.
positive, like
But
um
I'm glad you could talk about this.
yeah,
I think
I'm
there's
glad to
going to be a
talk
lot
about
of
it.
people who, because people go through stuff. I think a lot of people have been touched by suicide at some point in their life, and
Yeah,
they will,
yeah,
or by death of some kind. It's a reality,
yeah.
and God's with us even to the end of the age.
He
So,
is.
do you want to end us in a prayer, or
Yeah, I would love to.
okay?
Dear God, just thank you for just the spirit you poured out all over us. Just talking with me and Daniel, and just through everything that I've been through and that he's been through, and just the communing with one another on this podcast, and being able that hopefully someone will be able to hear this and that they'll be helped by it. Lord, I ask that those who have died will not be forgotten, and that we may not forget them in this lifetime. And I, I pray that someone hear this today and that they be touched by it. In your name, amen.
In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you,
Amen.
Isaac, and
Yeah,
hopefully you get some healing through all this too.
I've gotten, I, the healing's mostly done. I'm not as bad as I used to, like,
Okay.
I used to be real. God did everything in time. Time heals a lot of things. It's not, I used to be bad. My birthday used to be a bad day.
Well, Jerry still struggles
Yeah,
too, and once in a
it,
while he has to share a story again. But there's a scripture that talks about the blood or our testimony
yeah.
and stuff and how it heals people. So I hope
I
that,
hope that heals someone then,
yeah,
because that will heal me.
yeah, yeah, it does. It
It
works
does.
both ways. That's the blessing of God,
Yeah.
very much so. All right, thank you all for joining in, and I love you all and Godspeed.
Yeah.